Republicans pushing for drastic spending cuts are now willing to risk worldwide economic collapse.
We're just getting started.
This is the first of 3 battles.
And here we go again.
The president and House Republicans compromised to stop a government shutdown, but that was just the beginning.
The shutdown battle was child's play.
No one got everything he wanted, and everyone walked away unhappy.
And it really is a precursor to the debt ceiling fight.
And the 2012 budget.
Either the government is allowed to borrow more money or there is a global economic Armageddon.
The United States could default.
Default on our debt, which would be absolutely catastrophic.
Financial disaster. It could be a catastrophic failure.
This is as serious as a heart attack.
Only 32% of the country supports raising the debt.
And by the way, that's after we told them the argument for it.
And then there's the Republican budget plan for next year. It abolishes Medicare, cuts essential services, and oh yeah, cuts taxes for the rich. Yes, the very same rich they already cut taxes for.
Debt on arrival. It's not going to become law.
When is the left going to say, you know what, no more deals like this?
It's asking nothing of the wealthy.
Liberal Democrats who think the White House gave away too much.
You're asking seniors, the middle class, to pay more, giving the very, very wealthiest in this country just enormous taxes.
And with Donald Trump stealing the Republican presidential spotlight, Mitt Romney takes one step closer to officially campaigning. And Sarah Palin contradicts Sarah Palin on the president's birth certificate.
Donald Trump is riding a wave of birther mania and now has company.
Find out why President Obama would have spent $2 million to not show his birth certificate.
Donald Trump is getting called the new Sarah Palin. It's time to welcome Donald Trump.
I would like to have him show his birth certificate.
Here's mine.
Here's mine.
And here is mine. Mitt Romney is unhappy, both with the size of the deficit in general and his inability to connect with people on an emotional level.
Good evening from Los Angeles. Both President Obama and House Speaker John Boehner are taking credit for the 11th hour compromise agreement that funds the government through September 30th of this year and includes the biggest single-year spending cut in history. But Boehner is already issuing ultimatums about the next big fight.
The president has asked us to increase the debt limit of the United States. Now, these are obligations that have been incurred by our government. It's a moral obligation on the part of us to raise the debt limit. But how can you raise the debt limit? And the president says, I want you to send me a clean bill. Well, guess what, Mr. President? Not a chance you're going to get a clean bill. And I can just tell you this, that there will not be an increase in the debt limit without something really, really big attached to it.
That's what Speaker Boehner said at a Republican fundraiser on Saturday, just hours after the shutdown was averted. A day later on Fox News Sunday, Boehner's number 2, Majority Leader Eric Cantor, elaborated on what he called the really, really big possibilities.
Whether it's spending caps, entitlement reforms, budget process reforms, these are the kinds of things that we're going to have in order to go along with the debt limit increase.
Boehner and Cantor know that Congress must raise the debt ceiling. They were members of the Republican House that raised the debt ceiling 6 times when President Bush was in office. Debt limit votes are always close, but they have always passed. The tradition is that the party in power votes for the raise, and many in the powerless party vote against it in protest, as Senator Barack Obama did. Cantor himself sent a stern message about the necessity of raising the debt limit to skeptical Tea Party freshmen at the House Republican retreat in January, according to the Washington Post. But the New York Times reports today some Republican senators are thinking of doing the unthinkable, filibustering the vote. The Republican leader, Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, has privately urged the conservatives not to filibuster without success, say 3 people familiar with the talks. He argued that if Republicans did not filibuster and just 50 votes were needed for passage, the Republicans could try to force all the votes to come from the 51 Democrats, including 17 who are up for re-election. But if 60 votes are required because of a filibuster, ultimately, some Republicans would have to vote for the increase, lest the party be blamed for a debt crisis. Joining me now is Congresswoman Allyson Schwartz, who represents the 13th District of Pennsylvania. She's a member of the House Budget Committee. Thanks for joining us tonight, Congresswoman.
It's good to be with you.
Congressman, on the Democratic side of this argument in the House, I know it's very difficult because you don't have the powers that senators do, filibustering powers and so forth. It seems to me that the real threat here, there are two threats. One is a Republican filibuster in the Senate, which could completely kill the situation. The other is the House of Representatives not getting enough Republicans on it so that even with Democrats, you won't be able to pass this. Are Democrats ready to vote for this with or without Republican support in the House of Representatives?
Well, let me just say, you've already been talking about this a bit, but we don't like voting for an increase in the debt ceiling. The fact is that we also feel strongly, at least I will speak for myself, but for the Democrats, that we don't want to keep borrowing. We're concerned about how much we spend on interest and not being able to reach some kind of balance. And, you know, we also think that we have to get serious about it, but we ought to do it through the budget process. Now, I hope that Republicans will understand that. I would like to see the debt ceiling increased because we have to. We're not happy about it, but we have to. But it ought to be done with Republicans and Democrats. We do have a split government here, Republicans in control in the House. If we don't get Republicans to do it in the House, it doesn't get done. And then the United States defaults on its borrowing. And we've never defaulted. The full faith and credit of the United States has always, is at risk here. And we just cannot not do this. Now, again, the next step is, of course, and I hope it's a separate step, but the next step is making sure we can work together to bring our budget into balance.
Now, you voted on Friday to avert the government shutdown. Are you satisfied with the way the White House and the Democrats in the Senate negotiated this deal with John Boehner? Is there something in there that you can call victory for the Democratic side?
Oh, I think that it was a victory, first of all, for two reasons. One is it was a victory for the Democrats because we did not let the government shut down. We didn't want that to happen. The economy is just recovering. We need that stability. It would have been so disruptive, not only with the 800,000 federal employees potentially laid off, but the uncertainty that instability in what is a fragile economic growth situation after many, many months of, just seeing a little bit of growth. We want to keep that going. So I think that was one victory. And the other is not to have the ideological riders that were insisted upon to the brink of this decision. And so I think we feel good about the fact that we did not let that right-wing ideological agenda get tacked on to what was going to finish out this particular budget year. So those fights will continue, I'm sure, but we should have those ideological fights in separate legislation. I know they'll have a vote in the Senate, but so I think it was a win for this country, and that's ultimately what we what we have to do in finding that common ground. It's not easy, as you point out. It's not easy for us to find that common ground as Democrats and Republicans right now.
In the spending cuts dollar score alone, the Republicans got 75% of what they were asking for. Has that emboldened them? Is that why we're hearing this tough talk about the debt ceiling now?
Well, I actually think the opposite is emboldening them. First of all, we did, by just doing the continuing resolution, in other words, doing the budget at the level this year as we did it last year, we already did $41 billion in less spending this year than was proposed for the 2011 year. So we actually, Democrats did half of that, more than half of it. But yes, the Republicans got more spending cuts in this year's budget. And so, going forward, I hope that they don't take us to the brink on these important and really must-do votes. Again, what I think we ought to do instead is to get serious about how we put everything on the table, spending cuts, but also tax expenditures and tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, and really take seriously the kind of investments we have to make to be economically competitive in a global marketplace. If we ought to be able to reach some agreement. Sometimes it looks messier than others. I think it does not bode well for being easy going forward.
Taking it to the brink is what these Republicans do. I think we're going to have a lot of late-night votes this year. Congresswoman Allyson Schwartz, thank you very much for your time tonight.
You're welcome.
Joining me now is Melissa Harris Perry, an MSNBC